Welcome to Code Your English, the home to learn and grow fast.
Have you ever felt like you are capable of more, but somehow your life doesn't reflect it yet? Like deep inside, you know you have potential. You have dreams. You have a vision of a better version of yourself. But when it comes to your daily actions, something just doesn't connect? If you've ever felt stuck in that gap between who you are and who you want to become, then take a moment. Slow down. Because this video might be one of the most important messages you hear. Welcome to Code Your English channel, a place where we don't just talk about motivation. We talk about real change. A place where we understand your struggles, your habits, your thoughts, and most importantly, how to actually improve them step by step in a simple and practical way. In this video, you're not going to hear empty advice. You're not going to hear just work harder or just stay positive. Instead, you're going to understand something much deeper: how your brain really works, why you feel stuck sometimes, and how you can train it to move in the direction you want. Because the truth is, you don't need to become a different person to succeed. You just need to train your brain differently. So stay with me until the end. And let's start changing the way you think, the way you act, and the way you live. Imagine this. It's late at night. You are lying on your bed, holding your phone close to your face. The light from the screen is the only light in the room. Your eyes feel heavy, but you keep scrolling. One more video. Just one more. That's what you tell yourself. But deep inside, you already know this is not about one more video. You are not even enjoying it anymore. You are just trying to avoid something. You don't want to face that quiet feeling waiting for you when you stop. You pause for a moment. Your thumb stops moving. The video keeps playing, but your mind is somewhere else. You feel a small pressure in your chest. Not strong, but real. You lock your phone and put it down. Now there is silence. Real silence. And suddenly, your thoughts become louder. Why did I do that again? You don't say it out loud, but you feel it clearly. That question has no easy answer. You just stare at the ceiling. You think about your day. You remember how it started. You remember your plan. You remember your promise to yourself. Tomorrow will be different. You said it last night. You believed it. For a few seconds, you really believed it. But then, morning came. The alarm rang. You opened your eyes. You felt tired. Not just in your body, but in your mind. You looked at the time. You knew you should get up. You knew this moment mattered. But then another thought came. Just 5 more minutes. It felt small. It felt harmless. So you closed your eyes again. When you woke up next, everything felt rushed. You checked your phone. Just quickly. Just to see something. But that small action changed everything. Messages, notifications, videos, noise. Your mind was pulled away before you even had a chance to take control. And just like that, your day started without you. You moved through the day, but not with focus, not with intention. You did things, but not the things that matter. You told yourself, I'll start later. You said it again and again. After this, after that, after one more video, after one more break. But later never came. And the strange part is, you knew it. You were aware. You were not lost. You knew you were wasting time. You knew you were avoiding what you should do. But you still did it. And that is the part that hurts the most. Not that you don't know what to do, but that you don't do what you know. You sit sometimes with your work in front of you. Maybe a book, maybe your phone for learning, maybe something important for your future. You look at it. You understand it. You even want to do it. But your body doesn't move. Your mind feels heavy. You feel resistance, like something inside you is pushing you away from it. You try to start. You really try. You say, okay, just focus. You give your attention for a few minutes. But then your mind starts moving. You feel bored. You feel uncomfortable. You want to escape. You reach for your phone without thinking. It becomes automatic. And once again, you are gone. Later, when you come back to reality, you feel that same feeling again. Disappointment. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. You think, why am I like this? You ask yourself this question many times, but you never find a clear answer. You start comparing yourself to others. You see people who look focused, people who wake up early, people who work hard every day, and you think, they are different. You think they have something special, something you don't have. Maybe more discipline, maybe more strength, maybe more control. Slowly, without noticing, you start creating a story about yourself. A quiet story. You say things like, I'm not consistent. I always delay. I can't focus. And the more you repeat these thoughts, the more real they feel. They become part of your identity. Now, when you try to change, something inside you resists, because your mind says, this is not who you are. So even when you try, you don't fully believe in it. And when you fail again, it confirms your belief. It tells you, see, this is you. This is how the cycle continues. You make a plan. You feel motivated. You start. You stop. You feel bad. You escape. And then you try again. Over and over. Each time your confidence becomes weaker. Each time your trust in yourself becomes smaller. You say, I will do it tomorrow. But deep inside, a small voice says, no, you won't. That voice is quiet, but it is powerful. Because it comes from your past actions. You are not just fighting distraction. You are fighting your own history. Every time you didn't follow through, your brain learned something. It learned that your promises don't matter. It learned that comfort is stronger than effort. It learned that you will choose easy over important. And now, this learning is controlling you. That's why it feels so hard. That's why it feels like something is wrong with you. But the truth is, it's not about something being wrong with you. It's about something being repeated too many times. You are not lazy in the way you think. You are trained. Trained by your habits. Trained by your environment. Trained by your past choices. Your brain is simply doing what it has learned to do. But when you don't understand this, you blame yourself. You think it's your personality. You think it's your identity. And that belief makes everything heavier. Because if it's who you are, then how can you change? So you start to feel stuck, not just in your actions, but in your thinking. You feel like you are not moving forward, like time is passing, but you are not improving. You feel like you are watching your own life from the outside. And sometimes, you imagine a different version of yourself. A version that wakes up early, that focuses, that works hard, that stays consistent, that grows every day. That version feels real in your mind. You can see it clearly, but it also feels far away, like it belongs to someone else. That creates a quiet pain inside you. Because you know you are capable of more. You feel it. You are not dreaming of something impossible. You are dreaming of something you believe you can do. But for some reason, you are not doing it. And that gap between what you know and what you do, that gap is where your frustration lives. You don't need more information. You already know enough. You don't need more motivation. You have felt it many times. But something still doesn't change. So the question becomes deeper. It's no longer, what should I do? It becomes, why don't I do what I already know? That question is uncomfortable because it forces you to look inside. It forces you to face something real, something that is not easy to accept. But at the same time, it is the most important question. Because maybe, just maybe, the problem is not what you think it is. Maybe you are not lacking discipline. Maybe you are not lacking motivation. Maybe you are not even lacking willpower. Maybe something else is happening. Something inside your brain that is stronger than your intentions. Something that controls your actions before you even realize it. And if that is true, then trying harder in the same way will not fix it. You don't need to push yourself more. You don't need to blame yourself more. You need to understand what is really going on. Because once you see it clearly, something changes. Not outside, inside. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, how is my brain working right now? And that small shift can change everything. So before you promise yourself again that tomorrow will be different, before you try to force yourself to become disciplined, let's slow down. Let's understand the real reason behind your behavior. Because what you are experiencing right now is not random. It is not a mystery. It follows a pattern, a very clear pattern. And once you see that pattern, you will never look at your habits, your focus, or your actions in the same way again. So let's look deeper. Let's understand what is really happening inside your brain. Remove friction. Make success easy. Right now, without even realizing it, your environment is quietly controlling your behavior. You may think your problem is a lack of discipline or motivation, but look around you for a moment. Your phone is probably close to you, maybe in your hand, maybe right next to you. Your apps are already open, ready to pull your attention. Notifications can appear at any second. Everything around you is designed for speed, ease, and instant pleasure. And your brain naturally moves toward what is easiest. It doesn't stop and say, what is best for my future? It simply asks, what feels easy right now? So when distraction is 1 step away and effort is 5 steps away, your brain will choose distraction almost every time. This is why you often feel like you are fighting yourself. It's not just about willpower. It's about the setup of your life. Imagine trying to eat healthy while junk food is always on your table. Or trying to focus while your phone keeps lighting up every few minutes. You are putting yourself in a situation where the wrong choice is always easier than the right one. And then you blame yourself when you fail. But the truth is, your environment is winning the battle before you even begin. So instead of trying to force yourself to become stronger every day, start by making your environment smarter. Change the setup, reduce the friction for good habits, and increase the friction for bad ones. Friction simply means how easy or difficult something feels to start. If something is easy to begin, you are more likely to do it. If something requires extra steps, your brain will hesitate. For example, if your phone is always next to you, your brain doesn't need to think. It just picks it up automatically. But if you place your phone in another room, now there is a small barrier. You have to stand up, walk, and go get it. That small effort might not sound like much, but in that moment, it is enough to break the automatic habit. It gives you a chance to pause and ask yourself, do I really need this right now? In the same way, think about your good habits. If you want to study, but your books are inside a bag, your table is messy, and your space is uncomfortable, your brain already feels resistance before you even begin. It feels like work just to get ready, so you delay it. But if your book is already open on the table, your pen is ready, and your space is clean and simple, starting becomes much easier. You remove the mental and physical resistance. You make the first step feel natural. Even something as simple as preparing your study space before sleeping can change everything. When you wake up, you don't need to think. You don't need to prepare. The decision is already made. The path is already clear. And when the path is clear, your brain follows it more easily. This is the key idea you need to understand. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your environment. If your environment is built for distraction, you will keep getting distracted. If your environment is built for focus, you will start focusing more naturally. It's not magic. It's design. So stop telling yourself, I need more discipline. Instead, ask yourself, how can I make this easier to do? Because real change doesn't come from forcing yourself again and again. It comes from creating a life where the right choice feels simple and the wrong choice feels inconvenient. This is not about being stronger. This is about being smarter with how you live. Why this happens. Brain explanation. Simple and powerful. Let me explain something very important, and I want you to really slow down and listen to this part, because this is where many people finally understand themselves for the first time. What you are experiencing is not random. It is not because you are broken or lazy. It is because your brain is working exactly the way it was designed to work. Once you understand this, that heavy feeling of confusion, why am I like this, starts to become clear. Your brain is not one simple thing. It has different systems that are constantly influencing your decisions, often without you even noticing. To make it simple, you can think of your brain as having two main sides. One side is focused on survival, and the other side is focused on growth. These two parts are always active, and many times they are in conflict with each other. The first part is what we can call the survival brain. This part is very old. It has been with humans for thousands of years. Its main job is to keep you safe and comfortable. It does not care about your big dreams or your long-term goals. It only cares about one thing: avoiding discomfort right now. This is the part of your brain that tells you to stay in bed when the alarm rings, because the bed feels warm and safe. It is the voice that says, don't take risks, because risks feel uncertain. It pushes you toward things that feel easy and enjoyable in the moment, like scrolling on your phone, watching videos, or doing anything that gives quick pleasure without effort. Then there is the second part, which we can call the growth brain. This part is more advanced. It is responsible for learning, improving, and building a better future. This is the part of you that wants to wake up early, even when it's hard. It is the voice that tells you to study, to practice, to stay focused, to keep going even when things are uncomfortable. This part thinks about your future self. It cares about who you can become, not just how you feel right now. Now here is the real problem, and this is where everything starts to make sense. The survival brain is faster and stronger than the growth brain. It reacts instantly. It works like autopilot. You don't have to think for it to act. The moment something feels uncomfortable, it immediately tries to protect you by pushing you back toward comfort. It doesn't stop and ask, "Is this good for my future?" It simply says, "This feels hard. Let's avoid it." That's why, when you decide to change your life, your brain does not celebrate your decision. It does not say, "Wow, this is a great idea. Let's work hard." Instead, it reacts like you are in danger, because from the perspective of the survival brain, discomfort feels like a threat. Waking up early feels like a loss of comfort. Studying feels like effort. Practicing feels tiring. So your brain sends signals to pull you back. It says, "This is uncomfortable. This is not safe. Let's go back to what feels easy." And this is exactly why you find yourself avoiding hard tasks, choosing easy pleasure, and delaying important work. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you don't have goals. It's because your brain is doing its job, protecting you from discomfort, even when that protection is actually stopping your growth. So when you sit there and think, "Why can't I just focus?" Or, "Why do I keep delaying things?" you need to understand something very clearly. This is not a weakness in your character. This is a pattern in your brain. And more importantly, it is a pattern that has not been trained yet. Think of your brain like a muscle. If you never train a muscle, it stays weak. It always chooses the easiest movement. It avoids pressure. It avoids effort. But when you start training it slowly, consistently, it becomes stronger over time. The same thing happens with your brain. If you always follow the easy path, your brain becomes used to that path. It becomes automatic. It becomes your default behavior. And that is why, right now, your brain keeps choosing the easiest option, not because it is the best option, but because it is the most familiar and requires the least effort. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you are training that pattern even more. You are teaching your brain, "This is what we do." But here is the most important part you need to remember. Just like a muscle can be trained, your brain can also be trained. The patterns you have today are not permanent. They are simply the result of what you have practiced again and again. And if you can practice distraction, you can also practice focus. If you can train your brain to choose comfort, you can also train it to choose growth. Right now, your brain is just following the easiest path. But with the right training, you can change that path. Shift in perspective. Powerful realization. This is the moment where everything can start to change for you, but only if you truly understand it, not just hear it. Most people spend years believing the wrong idea. They keep telling themselves, "I just need more motivation." They wait for that perfect feeling, that sudden energy, that moment when everything inside them feels ready. Or they say, "I need discipline," as if discipline is something you either have or you don't. So they keep waiting, and nothing really changes. But the truth is much deeper than that, and also much more practical. Motivation is not your real problem. Discipline is not your starting point. The real issue is something most people never think about. Your brain has been trained in a certain way, and now it is simply repeating what it learned. Think about your daily life for a moment. Every time you chose comfort over effort, every time you opened your phone instead of focusing, every time you delayed something important and replaced it with something easy, you are not just making a small decision. You were training your brain. You were teaching it a pattern. You were showing it again and again. This is what we do when things feel hard. We escape. We distract. We choose what feels good now. Over time, this becomes automatic. It becomes your default behavior. Not because it is the best choice, but because it is the most practiced one. Your brain doesn't judge. It doesn't say, this habit is good, or this habit is bad. It simply learns from repetition. Whatever you repeat, it strengthens. Whatever you avoid, it weakens. So when you now try to suddenly change everything, wake up early, focus deeply, stay consistent, your brain resists. Not because you are incapable, but because you are asking it to do something it has not been trained to do. It's like expecting your body to run a marathon without ever practicing running. Of course it feels difficult. Of course there is resistance. And this is where the powerful shift happens. Instead of blaming yourself, instead of thinking, something is wrong with me, you start to see the truth more clearly. You realize that what you are experiencing is not your identity. It is your conditioning. It is not who you are. It is what you have practiced. And when that realization becomes real for you, something inside you begins to relax. That heavy feeling of guilt starts to soften, because now you understand, I am not stuck like this forever. I didn't become this way in one day, and I don't need to fix it in one day. You stop fighting yourself, and you start understanding yourself. Then comes the most important truth of all. If your brain can be trained for distraction, it can also be trained for focus. If it can learn to chase instant rewards, it can also learn to work for long-term success. The same brain that pulls you toward comfort today can, with the right training, start guiding you toward growth tomorrow. This is not about becoming a completely different person. You don't need a new personality. You don't need some special talent. What you need is a new pattern, a new way of repeating small actions until they become natural. Because your life is not controlled by one big decision, it is controlled by what you do repeatedly, often without thinking. So instead of asking, how do I become more motivated? Start asking a better question. What am I training my brain to do every day? Because that question gives you power. It shifts your focus from feelings to actions, from waiting to building. And once you truly understand this, you stop hoping for change, and you start creating it. Practical Training Steps, Core Section. Now let's move into the part that actually changes your life. Not ideas, not motivation, but real training. Because understanding your brain is powerful, but training it is what creates results. And the key thing you need to remember here is this. You are not going to change your life by forcing yourself to feel motivated every day. That approach fails again and again. Instead, you are going to build small systems that guide your behavior, even when you don't feel ready. This is how real change begins, quietly, simply, and consistently. Let's start with something very small, but incredibly powerful. Your brain naturally resists big tasks. The moment you tell yourself, I will study for 2 hours, your brain immediately feels pressure. It sees effort, discomfort, and energy loss. So it pushes back. It delays. It avoids. That's why you often don't even begin. The task feels too heavy before you even take the first step. But here is the shift. Instead of asking your brain to do something big, you ask it to do something so small that it cannot argue. You simply say, I will do this for 5 minutes. That's it. No pressure. No big promise. Just 5 minutes. And something interesting happens here. Your brain relaxes. It no longer feels threatened because 5 minutes feels easy. It feels manageable. So you start. And once you start, you create movement. You break the resistance. And this is where momentum begins. In many cases, those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20, sometimes even more. Not because you forced yourself, but because starting removed the mental barrier. And even on the days when you only do 5 minutes and stop, you still win. Because you trained the most important skill of all, starting. Most people don't fail because they can't continue. They fail because they never begin. When you train your brain to start, you are changing your entire pattern. Now, let's go deeper into something that most people ignore but has a huge impact on their behavior: your environment. Right now, your surroundings are not neutral. They are influencing you all the time. If your phone is always near you, if your apps are always open, if notifications keep pulling your attention, then distraction becomes the easiest option. And your brain will always choose the easiest path. It doesn't stop to think about your goals. It follows what is simple and available. So instead of trying to fight distraction with willpower, you change the environment itself. This means making small but powerful adjustments. You place your phone in another room so that using it requires effort. You keep your book open on the table so that starting feels natural. You prepare your study space before sleeping so that in the morning, everything is already ready. These changes may seem simple, but they remove resistance from good habits and add resistance to bad ones. And that changes your behavior without constant struggle. This is not about becoming more disciplined. This is about designing a life where the right actions feel easier to take. It is a smarter way to live. Another important thing you need to understand is how your brain responds to rewards. Your brain is always learning from what feels good, but most people make a mistake. They only reward themselves when they achieve big results, when they succeed, when they finish something perfectly. And this creates a problem, because success takes time. So, in the early stages, your brain feels like it is working without any reward. And when there is no reward, there is no motivation to repeat the behavior. Instead, you need to change what you reward. You don't wait for the result. You reward the action. You reward the effort. If you studied for 10 minutes, that is good. If you practiced speaking, that is good. If you tried again after failing, that is very good. You are teaching your brain that showing up matters, that effort matters. And when your brain starts connecting effort with a positive feeling, it begins to repeat that behavior more naturally. Over time, this builds consistency, and consistency builds success. Now let's talk about one of the hardest moments you face, the moment when you simply don't feel like doing anything. This is where most people stop. They think, I don't have the mood today. I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes the same story again. So you need a new rule, a simple but powerful rule. You act even when you don't feel like it. Not in a big, overwhelming way, but in a small, manageable way. When your brain says, not today, you don't argue with it. You don't try to force a big effort. You simply respond with, just 5 minutes. This is how you build real mental strength. Not by feeling motivated, but by learning to move even when motivation is absent. Because the truth is, most of your life will not feel exciting or inspiring. Many days will feel normal, slow, or even boring. And if you depend on feelings, you will stop again and again. But if you build the habit of taking small action regardless of your mood, you create a new identity, someone who does what needs to be done, even in small steps. And this brings us to one of the most powerful shifts you can make: how you see yourself. The words you use to describe yourself are not just words. They shape your behavior. When you say, "I'm trying to learn English," your brain hears uncertainty. It feels like something optional, something you may or may not do. But when you say, "I am someone who practices every day," that changes everything. Now it becomes part of who you are. Your brain starts aligning your actions with that identity. The same goes for discipline. If you say, "I want to be disciplined," it feels like something far away. But if you say, "I am building discipline daily," it becomes a process. It becomes something you are actively doing. Your brain begins to follow that identity through small actions. And over time, those actions become natural. All of these steps may seem simple, but together they create a powerful system. You start small so your brain doesn't resist. You design your environment so the right choices feel easier. You reward effort so your brain wants to repeat it. You act even without mood, so you build strength. And you change your identity, so your actions become aligned with who you believe you are. This is how you train your brain. Not in one big moment, but in small, repeated decisions that slowly change everything. Internal dialogue training. Now let's talk about something that most people ignore, but it quietly controls almost everything you do: your inner voice. The way you speak to yourself, especially in difficult moments, shapes your behavior more than motivation, more than advice, and more than any external influence. This voice is always there. Sometimes you notice it, sometimes you don't. But it is constantly commenting, judging, explaining, and guiding your actions. And the truth is very simple but very powerful. This voice can either work against you or it can work for you. Right now, if you listen carefully, you might recognize a pattern in how you talk to yourself. When things don't go well, when you don't follow your plan, when you waste time or lose focus, your inner voice becomes negative. It starts saying things like, "I'm not consistent," or "I always fail," or "I can't focus." And in that moment, it feels true. It feels like you are just describing reality. But what you don't realize is that these thoughts are not neutral. They are training your brain. Every time you repeat these negative statements, you are strengthening an identity. You are teaching your brain, "This is who I am." And once your brain accepts that identity, it starts behaving in a way that matches it. If you keep saying, "I'm lazy," your brain will continue choosing lazy actions because it believes that is your nature. Not because it is true, but because it has been repeated enough times to feel true. So the goal here is not to lie to yourself or to use fake, unrealistic positivity. Saying things like, "I'm perfect," or "I can do everything easily," doesn't work, because your brain doesn't believe it. Instead, you need to train your inner voice to become more accurate, more constructive, and more aligned with growth. You are not trying to feel good. You are trying to think better. For example, instead of saying, "I'm lazy," you shift your thinking slightly and say, "I'm learning to control my actions." This is very different. It doesn't deny the struggle, but it changes the direction. It moves you from a fixed identity to a process. It tells your brain, This is something I am working on. And when your brain sees something as a skill to build, it becomes more open to effort. In the same way, when you make a mistake or fail to follow your plan, your natural reaction might be to say, "I failed again?" That statement feels heavy. It feels final. It creates frustration and discouragement. But if you change it to, "I didn't follow the system, I'll adjust," something important happens. Now, the focus is not on your identity. It is on your behavior, and behavior can be changed. This way of thinking keeps you in control. It turns failure into feedback instead of judgment. Another common moment is when you simply don't feel like doing the work. Your brain says, "I don't feel like it." And most of the time, that thought stops you completely. But what if you responded differently? What if instead of accepting that thought as a reason to stop, you answered it with, "That's normal. I'll still start small." Now you are not fighting your feelings. You are accepting them, but not letting them control your actions. You are training your brain to understand that action is not dependent on mood. This is what mental training really looks like. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It happens in quiet moments, inside your mind, when you choose one thought over another. Over time, these small changes in how you speak to yourself begin to reshape how your brain responds to challenges. You become less emotional, less reactive, and more focused on solutions. And slowly, something powerful starts to happen. That inner voice that used to pull you down starts to support you. It becomes calmer, more stable, more helpful. Instead of attacking you when you make mistakes, it guides you on what to do next. Instead of stopping you when things feel hard, it encourages you to take small action. This is how you reprogram your brain. Not by changing everything at once, but by changing the way you speak to yourself. One thought at a time. Hard truth plus motivation. Now listen carefully, because this is the part most people don't want to hear. But it's the part that can actually change your life. It might feel uncomfortable, maybe even a little heavy, but that's exactly why it matters. The truth is very simple and very direct. Your life will not change until your daily actions change. Not your thoughts alone, not your intentions, not your plans, but what you actually do, every single day, even when nobody is watching. It's easy to watch a video like this and feel inspired. For a few minutes, everything feels clear. You understand your mistakes. You feel ready. But inspiration is temporary. It comes and goes. And if nothing changes after that feeling disappears, then nothing in your life changes either. No video, no advice, no motivational speech, no matter how powerful it sounds, can fix your life if you don't take action. These things can guide you. They can open your eyes. They can give you direction. But they cannot walk the path for you. Now, to be fair, your situation is not easy. Your brain does make things harder than they need to be. It pulls you toward comfort. It resists effort. It makes you feel tired even before you start. And yes, there are days when you feel stuck, when your energy is low, when your focus disappears, and when even small tasks feel heavy. All of that is real. You are not imagining it. You are not alone in feeling this way. But here is the part that changes everything, if you truly accept it. Even with all of that, you are still responsible for what you do next. Not responsible for how you feel in every moment. Not responsible for every thought that comes into your mind. But responsible for your actions, for the decision you make right after this moment. And that responsibility is not something to fear. It is something powerful. Because if your actions are in your control, even in small ways, then your future is not fixed. You are not stuck in one version of yourself. You are not trapped in your current habit forever. What you are experiencing right now is not a permanent condition. It is a level of training, or more accurately, a lack of training in certain areas. And once you see it that way, everything starts to look different. You are not broken. You are just untrained. And training, by its nature, takes time. It does not feel exciting in the beginning. It does not give you immediate results. Most of the time, it feels slow. It feels repetitive. It feels like you are doing small things that don't matter. Some days, it even feels boring. And that is exactly why most people quit. They are looking for big changes, fast results, strong emotions. But real growth doesn't work like that. The path is not built on excitement. It is not built on motivation. It is built on repetition. Doing the same small action again and again, even when it feels ordinary, even when it feels like nothing is happening. That repetition is what slowly rewires your brain. It is what turns effort into habit, and habit into identity. So if you are waiting to feel ready, you will keep waiting. If you are waiting to feel motivated, you will keep stopping. But if you accept that progress comes from small, repeated actions, even when they feel uncomfortable, then you step onto a completely different path. A real path. A slow path. But a path that actually leads somewhere. So tonight, before you sleep, I don't want you to make another big promise to yourself. Don't tell yourself that from tomorrow your whole life will suddenly become perfect. Don't create another heavy expectation that you will wake up as a completely new person, full of energy, full of discipline, doing everything right. You've tried that before, and you already know how that story ends. It starts with excitement, and slowly fades into the same pattern again. Not because you don't care, but because the approach itself is too big, too sudden, and too unrealistic for how the brain actually works. Instead, I want you to do something very different. Something simple. Something almost too small to take seriously, but powerful enough to change everything if you repeat it. Tonight, choose just one action. Only one. Not 10 things, not a full plan, not a perfect routine. Just one small action that moves your life forward. It could be opening a book, practicing English for a few minutes, organizing your desk, or starting something you've been delaying. It doesn't need to be impressive. It just needs to be real. And once you choose that one action, don't try to do it perfectly. Don't try to do it for a long time. Just do it for 5 minutes. That's it. Give yourself permission to keep it small. Because what you are building here is not a perfect result. You are building a new pattern. You are teaching your brain something new. When I decide to do something, I start. That lesson is far more important than how long you continue. Because the truth is, success is not created in big dramatic moments. It's not built in one day of extreme motivation or one perfect routine. It is built quietly, in small decisions that most people ignore. It's built in the moments when you choose to start, even if it's small. It's built in the days when you show up for a few minutes instead of doing nothing. And when you repeat those small decisions again and again, they begin to shape your identity. At first, it won't feel like much. It may even feel too simple to matter. But over time, something starts to shift. Your brain becomes more familiar with action. Starting becomes easier, resistance becomes weaker, and without even realizing it, you begin to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily, deeply, and in a way that lasts. And then one day, you will notice something different. You will wake up, go through your day, and realize that you are not the same person anymore. The things that used to feel impossible now feel normal. The habits you struggled with now feel natural. And the gap between who you wanted to be and who you are becomes smaller and smaller. Not because you waited for motivation, not because everything became easy, but because you trained your brain, step by step, day by day. So if this message spoke to you, if you felt even a small connection to what was said here, don't let it end as just another video you watched and forgot. Don't let it become another moment of temporary inspiration. Use it. Take something from it and apply it in your life, even in the smallest way. Start today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today. Even if what you do feels small, even if it feels simple, even if it feels like it's not enough. Because small is not weak. Small is how real change begins.